We're live, beautiful people. Good morning. Today we're going to be continuing on our series. We're going to be talking about the Master Key System, Part 6. I hope you're ready for this fix. So let's go, let's get it, folks. You know, we have to start with an attitude of gratitude. What are you grateful for this morning? Drop it in the chat. It's a new, beautiful day. What are you grateful for today? It's a new one. You know, we got to live our lives today. My goodness, so much happened yesterday. It was incredible. I learned so much. But I hope you did your exercise. You already know the drill. If you didn't do your exercise, get off this live and go and do it now. Go and do it now. And come back. Okay, so yesterday we just meditated on our complete mental picture, a place with pleasant associations. So I hope you did that and felt awesome. I did it and it felt great to see myself where I want to be. It's awesome. So let's continue on. Part 6, Introduction. And as always, it is my privilege to enclose this part 6. This part will give you an excellent understanding of the most wonderful piece of mechanism which has ever been created. A mechanism whereby you may create for yourself health, strength, success, prosperity, and any other condition which you desire. I was talking to my friend yesterday and she was telling me, she feels strong. I was like, how does it feel to feel strong? She's like, it feels so good, I love my body now. I was like, yeah, that's so amazing. Yes. You can feel like that too. From fat and flabby to fit and strong. From mousy and timid to confident and assertive. And you could do that. But we'll get to there. Necessities are demands. Necessity is the mother of all invention. So necessities are demands, and demands create action. And actions bring about results. So this is how it goes. And this, I find this so true, man. So true. Like, wow. Some things you just would never do until it becomes necessary. Why is that so? I don't know. But the key is to make it necessary for yourself, to have what it is you want to have. And then that demand is going to create the action that will bring about that result that you want. So the process of evolution is constantly building our tomorrows out of our todays. Individual development, like universal development, must be gradual with an ever-increasing capacity and volume. So we're getting better, we're getting stronger, we're getting faster, we're getting smarter. Just a little bit. We're building on what we already know, and we're just getting better. The same way I'm doing this series every day, just building upon the last day, right? The knowledge that if we infringe upon the rights of others, we become moral thorns and find ourselves entangled at every turn of the road should be an indication that success is contingent upon the highest moral ideal. Not a lot of people think this, but it is so, right? And the highest moral ideal is essentially the greatest good to the greatest number, right? So that's why my mantra is more and better for all and less to none. Aspiration, desire, and harmonious relations constantly and persistently maintained will accomplish results. The greatest hindrance is erroneous and fixed ideas. To be in tune with eternal truth, we must possess poise and harmony within. In order to receive intelligence, the receiver must be in tune with the transmitter. Right, like a radio signal, for example, to receive the vibrations of the channel, so you could hear someone on the radio, you have to tune your radio to a specific frequency, so it will pick up those transmissions, so that you could receive it. It's the same. This individual, you as an individual, you are a receiver and a transmitter. But to receive, you must be in tune with the transmitter. So thought is a product of mind, and mind is creative. But this does not mean that the universal will change its modus operandi to suit us or our ideas. But it does mean that we can come into a harmonious relationship with the universal. And when we have accomplished this, we may ask anything to which we are entitled, and the way will be made plain. So, we're going to figure out how to do this in this part here. So I'm excited. Join me on this journey within. So the universal mind, it is so wonderful that it is difficult to understand its utility, its all of its powers and possibilities and its unlimited producing effects. So we're going to take it step by step. We have found that this mind is not only all intelligence, but all substance. How then is it to be differentiated in form? How are we to secure the effect which we desire? Ask any electrician what the effect of electricity will be, and he will reply that electricity is a form of motion, and its effect will depend upon the mechanism to which it is attached. Upon this mechanism will depend whether we shall have heat, light, power, music, or any other marvelous demonstration of power to which this vital energy has been harnessed. So, what effect can be produced by thought? The reply is the same, is that thought is mind in motion, just as wind is air in motion, and its effect will depend entirely on the mechanism to which it is attached. Here then is the secret of all mental power. It depends entirely on the mechanism which we attach. I hope you're getting this. This is the secret sauce here. What is this mechanism? You know something of the mechanism which has been invented by Edison, Bell and Marconi and Tesla, and other electrical wizards, by which place and space and time have become only figures of speech. But did you ever stop to think that the mechanism which has been given you for the transforming of the universal, omnipresent potential power was invented by a greater inventor than Edison or Tesla? We are accustomed to examining the mechanism of the implements which we use for the tilling of the soil, and we try to get an understanding of the mechanism of the automobile which we drive, but most of us are content to remain in absolute ignorance of the greatest piece of mechanism which has ever come into existence, the brain of man. Most of us, we are so content to just be ignorant about this wonderful brain that we have in our head, between our ears. It's perplexing to me. You know, we love cars so much. We understand how that works, but we don't understand how the brain works. Why? So let us examine the wonders of this mechanism. Perhaps we shall thereby get a better understanding of the various effects of which it is the cause. So in the first place, there is the great mental world in which we live and move and have our being. This world is omnipotent, it's omniscient, it's omnipresent. I'm going to stop here for a moment. I just want to make sure we all know what these words mean, because they have been thrown around a lot, and I don't want misunderstanding, right? Omni is a prefix meaning all. That's what it means. It just means all. Potent means potential or power, right? Nescient, it has to do with knowledge. And present, well, we should know what present means. So omnipotent means all power. Omniscient means all knowledge or all wisdom. And omnipresent means everywhere. Right? So it will respond to our desire in direct ratio to our purpose and faith. The purpose must be in accordance with the law of our being. That is, it must be creative or constructive. our faith must be strong enough to generate a current of sufficient strength to bring our purpose into manifestation. So as thy faith is, so be it unto thee, bears the stamp of scientific tests. The effects which are produced in the world without are the result of the action and reaction of the individual upon the universal. That is the process which we call thinking. That's essentially what it is. The brain is the organ through which this process is accomplished. Think of the wonder of it all. My goodness. Do you love music? About flowers, or maybe literature? Or are you inspired by the thought of an ancient or modern genius? Remember, every beauty to which you respond must have its corresponding outline in your brain before you can appreciate it. Just think about that for a moment. Everything in this physical world has a corresponding mental picture. And the mental picture is really what you respond to. There is not a single virtue or principle in the storehouse of nature which the brain cannot express. The brain is an embryonic world ready to develop at any time as necessity may arise. If you can comprehend that this is a scientific truth and one of the wonderful laws of nature, it will be easier for you to get an understanding of the mechanism by which these extraordinary results are being accomplished. The nervous system has been compared to an electric circuit, right, with its battery of cells in which force is originated, and its white matter to insulated wires by which the current is conveyed. Now, we have white matter and gray matter, right? The difference really is just the amount of nerve cells versus the amount of glial cells, right? And we thought the glial cells was just about like the insulation part, right? Allowing the electricity to flow through the nerves, but it is way more complicated than that. I don't have the time to go into it here. I don't think you really need to know those details right now to understand these principles. So I'm just going to keep it simple for this series, but if you're interested in this, you could go deeper yourself. You could message me, and I could do that another time. So this nervous system is like an electrical circuit, and it is through these channels that every impulse or desire is carried through the mechanism. The spinal cord is the great motor and sensory pathway by which messages are conveyed to and from the brain. Then there is the blood supply plunging through the veins and arteries, renewing our energy and strength, the perfectly arranged structure upon which the entire physical body rests. Finally, the delicate and beautiful skin clothing the entire mechanism in a mantle of beauty. This then is the temple of the living God, and the individual I is given control upon his understanding of the mechanism, which is within his control. Will the result depend? Oh my. Every thought sets the brain cells in action. Every thought sets the brain cells in action. So at first, the substance upon which the thought is directed fails to respond. But if the thought is sufficiently refined and concentrated, the substance finally yields and expresses perfectly. So, what is that saying really? So, our nerve cells, they carry these impulses, right? These electrical impulses. But in the nerve cell, for it to send an impulse, it needs to be activated. If you stimulate a nerve cell, there's a certain threshold. If you stimulate it just a little bit, it will go up and it will come back down. The voltage go up and come back down to the baseline. But if you stimulate it past the threshold, then the cell activates and it continues to send the signal. The signal continues to rise, right? So you must pass the threshold. to get the effect. But when it does, it will express perfectly. So this influence of the mind can be exerted upon any part of the body, causing the elimination of any undesirable effect. A perfect conception and understanding of the laws governing in the mental world cannot fail to be of inestimable value in the transaction of business, as it develops the power of discernment and gives a clearer understanding and appreciation of facts. The man who looks within instead of without cannot fail to make use of the mighty forces which will eventually determine his course in life, and so bring him into vibration with all that is best, strongest, and most desirable. So, attention or concentration is probably the most important essential in development of mind. So, pay attention. The possibilities of attention, when properly directed, are so startling that they would hardly appear credible to the uninitiated. And there's so much studies on this too. Like, there's a study, for example, this one has blown my mind every time I think about it, with the double slit experiment. I don't know if you all know about the double slit experiment, right? But they shine light through these two slits and see, and it goes to a screen in the back, and they look at the interference pattern. And it depends. the pattern you see, whether it's a pattern of particles or a pattern of waves, what you see depends on how you measure the light and where you measure the light, which is so interesting. So we see that light has this dual nature, and so it could appear as a wave or a particle depending on how we measure it. But it's wonkier than that. They did this experiment where they had meditators versus non-meditators actually outside of the experiment, outside of the room where the experiment was taking place. And they had it was in a Faraday cage and other insulating stuff, so that no other signals or waves could get in to interfere with the experiment, because it's very sensitive. And they had the meditators outside, and they had them, instead of they measure the light at a certain point, they actually had the meditator just focus their attention on it. And depending on whether the meditator was focusing on it or not, the light would change from wave to light, from wave to particle. So that's so mind-boggling. Like, we actually could affect the fundamental characteristics in nature. And this is a 5 sigma result for any statisticians out there who understand how the chances of that being a chance is incredibly small. So a 5 sigma result is more proof than most scientific theories that we have right now. So I mean, I could just geek out on that, but let's not go down that rabbit hole right now. Just know that your mind is very powerful. Suffice to say. Okay? So, the cultivation of attention is the distinguishing characteristic of every successful man or woman, and is the very highest personal accomplishment which can be acquired. The power of attention can be more readily understood by comparing it with a magnifying glass, in which the rays of light of sunlight are focused. Right? They possess no particular strength as long as the glass is moved about and the rays directed from one place to another. But let the glass be held perfectly still, and let the rays be focused on one spot for any length of time, and the effect will become immediately apparent. Right? I don't know if you all had any kind of devious childhood where you would try to shine the light on ants, the magnifying glass on ants, and you see the effect. You know, as I say, if you move it around, you scatter it, not much effect. But you hold that steady on one spot, it's incendiary. That's what your imagination like. That's what your attention is like. That is the power of your mind, if you were to use it to its full potential. So, with the power of thoughts, let power be dissipated by scattering the thought from one object to another, and no result is apparent. So you think about this, you think about that, you want to do this, you want to do that, You're all over the place. Your energy is scattered everywhere, so it's not much output in any particular direction. So you don't really get anywhere there. No result is apparent. But focus this power through attention or concentration on any single purpose for any length of time, nothing becomes impossible. This is why I stress so much for people to find their purpose, because then you could just focus on that, concentrate your attention upon that, and everything else just fall in line. You come into harmony with everything else. And so things start to flow for you. That is, when you reach that stage, that is when the beauty of life is just opened up to you. You start to see it everywhere. A very simple remedy for a very complex solution, some will say. All right, try it. You have had no experience in concentrating the thought on a definite purpose or object. Choose any single object and concentrate your attention on it for a definite purpose for even 10 minutes. And you can't do it. Why? The mind will wander a dozen times, and it will be necessary to bring it back to the original purpose. And each time, the effect will have been lost, and at the end of 10 minutes, nothing will have been gained, because you have not been able to hold your thoughts steadily to the purpose. And so this is exactly why we're building up these exercises, right? These meditative exercises. It's so that you could reach this point, because that's what the meditation is about, increasing your awareness and your concentration, your powers of focus and attention, right? Like when you're focusing on your breath, for example, your mind is going to wander. The whole point is to become aware and recognize your mind wandering. Let go of whatever you were thinking about and come back to the focus, which is the breath. But as you practice enough, the focus could change from the breath. You could focus on anything and recognize when you get distracted and come back to it. So the more you practice that, the better you'll be at concentrating, right? This is the whole goal. So it is, however, through attention that you will finally be able to overcome obstacles of any kind that appear in your path, onward and upward. And the only way to acquire this wonderful power is by practice. Practice makes perfect in this as in anything else. So in order to cultivate the power of attention, today what we want to do is bring a photograph with you to the same seat, in the same room, in the same position as before. So this is your exercise for today. You want to examine it closely, at least 10 minutes, right? Just examining this picture. Note the expression of the eyes, the form of the features, the clothing, the way the hair is arranged. In fact, note every detail shown on the photograph carefully. Now, folks, I just want to show you, right, what I'm talking about. So you'll understand, because I've done all these exercises. So look, I have a picture here, a photograph. What you do, you sit with it, go in the same position, the same room, same place. You sit with it, and you look at that picture, and you examine every detail on that picture for 10 minutes. So you know exactly how it looks, right? Everything, all the details, the way the hair is arranged, Okay, I think you get the point. In fact, note every detail shown on the photograph carefully. Now, cover it and close your eyes and try to see it mentally. If you could see every detail perfectly and can form a good mental image of the photograph, you are to be congratulated. If not, Simply repeat the process until you can. This is the exercise for today. This step is simply for the purpose of preparing the soil. Tomorrow, we shall be ready to sow the seed. So, as I say, these exercises are cumulative. So, building upon the last. So, make sure you are doing them every day without fail. Remember yesterday as we talked about persistence will win. Right? But persistence requires that we practice these exercises every day without fail. So today, practice. If you could see every detail perfectly after you cover it, if you could see it mentally perfectly and you could form this mental image, congratulate yourself. Right? You're doing well. But if not, that's all right. Just repeat it until you can. That is the exercise for today. Again, this is just to prepare the soil. Right? This is when we get to the end, then we'll be really going through the big exercises. But we cannot get to those exercises unless we go through these ones. You know? To get to the 5th grade, you have to go through the 4th grade. To go to the 4th grade, you have to go through the 3rd grade. You know? Sometimes people skip grades, but I mean, that's another thing, right? Those are people who are more advanced, and that doesn't necessarily help your development when you skip a grade. So let's not even go into that. Go through the grades, right? Every step. Just build upon the last, right? So tomorrow we shall be ready to sow the seed. But we don't want to sow the seed in bad soil, right? The environment matters. We want top soil, we want proper soil to give our seed the nutrients it needs. So it is by such exercises as these that you will finally be able to control your mental moods, your attitude, your consciousness. You know? My friend again yesterday, she was just saying, you know, that she was in she was low energy. And nothing was wrong with that. She wanted to feel how that felt, and I said that's fine, okay. But as we were progressing in the conversation, at some point she was saying earlier how a friend told her she was off. So I was just thinking about that, you know, off, and it just brought to mind like a switch, you know, you could switch on and off. So it could be high energy or low energy, and I think maybe I might be. Some people might confuse me, but I'm not saying you should be high energy always, constantly. You know, I talk about appropriateness. What is appropriate for the situation? Some situations you want to be high energy. Some you don't. You know, and the amount of energy varies too. So it's just about the appropriateness. And you will learn that with experience. So, but the whole point I want to show is that we can change. It's like a switch. You could just flip a switch. So if it is you want to be low energy, you could do that. But if you want to be high energy, you could also do that. So you're not limited. That's all I want people to know, that you could change your mood. You could change your attitude. You can do it like that. But maybe you can't do it like that right now, you know. Maybe you get into a certain state and it's almost impossible to get out of the state. Like there's this strong inertia to stay there, you know, and to feel bad, for example. That's a good example because there's so much people feel bad when they don't want to feel bad. If you want to feel bad and experience how that feels and affects your body, fine. That's okay. But if you don't want to feel bad and you're feeling bad, then there's something wrong and you could change that. So these exercises will help you with that. You'll be able to control your mental moods. Great financiers are learning to withdraw from the multitude more and more, that they may have more time for planning, thinking, and generating the right mental moods. Now really think about that. Really think about that. Why is it that, you know, you don't find billionaires walking around the street every day? Or even millionaires? Why is that? They are learning to withdraw from the multitude. Why is it every successful businessman has an office where they could go for periods of time without being disturbed? Everyone needs something like this, where you could find a space. That's why all these exercises are telling you to find a space where you will not be disturbed, so that you have time to search yourself, to find these truths hidden within you right now. If you don't take the time to discover it, to explore yourself, you will never know. You could go your whole life and never explore yourself, and die and never know who you really were. That is so tragic. That's a tragedy. And that is what it hurts me, So you need to figure out what hurts you, right? Because that is probably indicative of your purpose, right? Something that angers you that nobody really cares about, but it makes you angry and you want to change it. That is something you were meant to do, probably, right? So find what that is for you. I mean, these things for me, I just can't tolerate, for people, like so much people, we give up on ourselves and we just throw in the towel like, oh, it's no use. I can't do it. I'll never be able to do that. That has upset me. I'm like, what do you mean? Why you can't? Why you can't? But whatever. Successful businessmen are constantly demonstrating the fact that it pays to keep in touch with the thought of other successful businessmen. A single idea may be worth millions of dollars, and these ideas can only come to those who are receptive, who are prepared to receive them, who are in a successful frame of mind. So the state you're in determines the thoughts you have access to, the feelings you have access to, the actions you have access to. So it's incredible to be able to manage your state. Men are learning to place themselves in harmony with the universal mind. They are learning the unity of all things. They are learning the basic methods and principles of thinking, and this is changing conditions and multiplying results. And I'm sure you want to multiply your results too. So do it. Think right now. They are finding that circumstances and environment follow the trend of mental and spiritual progress. They find that growth follows knowledge. Action follows inspiration. Opportunity follows perception. Always the spiritual first, then the transformation into the infinite and illimitable possibilities of achievement. So notice that growth comes after knowledge. The action comes after the inspiration. The opportunity, it comes after the perception. Not the perception, the inspiration, the knowledge. All of that comes from within. So you already have opportunities around you right now to better your life. But if you don't perceive them, they literally don't exist to you. So it's the perception you got to start with, As the individual is the channel for the differentiation of the universal, these possibilities are necessarily inexhaustible. There's infinite possibilities right now. But what you perceive depends on your perception. So change your perception if it's not working for you. Thought is the process by which we may absorb the spirit of power and hold the result in our inner consciousness until it becomes a part of our ordinary consciousness. Right? Till it becomes a part of you. You practice it enough and that has become who you are. The method of accomplishing this result by the persistent practice of a few fundamental principles as explained in this system, this master key system, it is the master key which unlocks the storehouse of the universal truth. So the two great sources of human suffering currently are bodily disease and mental anxiety. Right? I mean, It's like an epidemic, maybe a pandemic right now, right? Anxiety, mental anxiety probably is a pandemic right now. I can't tell you how many people tell me they're so anxious all the damn time. Why? Even my friend yesterday, when I was talking to her, and she was like, oh, I don't, okay, I'm not even going to name her name, so it's fine, I think. But she was saying that for example, she was saying she wanted to call, she was anxious because she was expecting a call, or she could have gotten a call. She keep checking her phone to see if she got a call. And because a close one, a relative passed away, and she was going to go to the funeral, and so the family was grieving, and she wanted to be there for her family, which is noble and good. But I told her, why are you anxious if someone calls? If you miss the call, that's fine, you could call them back. She's like, no, I have to be there for them now. And she went into it, and I'm like, okay, all right. But you don't need to be anxious about it. She's like, no, but I feel this way. And I was like, okay, fine. You like to feel that way? That's what it comes down to me. To me, that's what it comes down to. Like, do you like to feel this way? I experience states that I don't like to feel, right? And it's not like I'm just like trying to deny it or ignore it. No. I try to understand it, Really feel the feelings, which she told me about, which that is the important part. Feel how it feels. Really, really feel it. And note if it's something that you like or you don't like. Is it pleasant or unpleasant for you? And if you don't like it, then change it. If you like it, then sustain it. But it's up to you in the end. Right? So this we have so much people anxious about everything. We need to practice Paul's advice to the Ephesians, I think. Be careful in nothing. Don't worry about anything. Be anxious in nothing. But that might sound like jibber jabber to some folks. So let's continue. These two great sources of our suffering right now, mental anxiety and the bodily disease, they may be readily traced to the infringement of some natural law. This is no doubt owing to the fact that so far knowledge has largely remained partial. But the clouds of darkness which have accumulated through long ages are beginning to roll away, and with them many of the miseries that attend the imperfect information. They are passing away. So that a man can change himself, improve himself, recreate himself, control his environment, and master his own destiny is the conclusion of every mind who is wide awake to the power of right thought in constructive action. Right. Should I quote that again? That a man can change himself, improve himself, recreate himself, control his environment, and master his own destiny is the conclusion of every mind who is wide awake to the power of right thought and constructive action. So it's not the end. This is just the beginning. You can change yourself, you can improve yourself, you can recreate yourself. You're doing it already. So, little Q&A before we end off the session. What are some of the effects which can be produced by electricity? Well, there's so many. Heat, light, power, music, sound, so many things. Upon what do these various effects depend? Well, they depend upon the mechanism to which the electricity is attached. Right? You attach different mechanisms, you get different results. And what is the result of the action and interaction of the individual mind upon the universal? Essentially, that is the effect of thinking. And it is the conditions and experiences with which we meet. How may these conditions be changed? Because this is what everybody wants. How do I change my conditions? Well, by changing the mechanism by which the universal is differentiated in form. What is this mechanism? The brain. And how may it be changed? Well, by the process we call thinking. Thoughts produce brain cells, and these cells respond to the corresponding thought in the universal. Hey, Miss Brands make it on today. Big up thyself. So, thoughts produce brain cells, and these cells respond to the corresponding thought in the universal. Imagine that. So, of what value is the power of concentration? It is the very highest personal accomplishment which can be acquired, and a distinguishing characteristic of every successful person, man or woman. How may it be acquired? By faithfully practicing the exercises in the system every day without fail. Why is this so important? Because it will enable us to control our thoughts, and since thoughts are causes, conditions must be effects. If we can control the cause, we can also control the effect. What is changing conditions and multiplying results in the objective world? Well, people are learning the basic methods of constructive thinking, and this is causing us to learn and grow and improve. And there is no end, there is no limit. What is the upper bound? We know not. So let us strive to go forward, onward and upward. Again, the exercise for today, folks, get yourself a photograph. Sit in the same place, the same space, same position as before, and examine that photograph, every detail. Examine it for 10 minutes. And then close your eyes, cover the picture, close your eyes, and recreate the mental image of the picture, and in every detail. Right? See if you can do that. If you can do that, you are progressing well. Congratulate yourself. If you can't, it's alright. Just keep practicing until you can. Right? And just keep doing it. And come back tomorrow for the next. So, today is a beautiful day. Live it in a beautiful way. I thank you for joining me today. I hope you got some value. And remember that we are rising high. We're going fast. And this was built to last. So, big up your whole self, not half. Your whole self. As we make more people whole, and we give more and better to all and less to none. So, thank you again. And big up your whole self. If you found some value in these sessions, share it with a friend. Maybe they could find some value too. You know, if there's some things you're hearing that you were trying to tell them and they could not hear it, they would not hear it, share this live with them. Maybe somebody saying it in a different way might illuminate them. So, big up your whole self, my girl. Thank you. Join me again tomorrow from 7 to 8 a.m. EST as we bring more value to you. The site is live. You can go check it out now. Morning Mindset Mastery.xyz. Still have one or two things I'm working on, but it is live now, so you could go check it out. Tell me what you think. You know, whether it's good or bad, just give me the feedback and we will update it. So, big up your whole self.